Hi everyone. We're going to get started today with the quadratic formula. In my opinion, this is one of the easiest ways we can solve a quadratic, but there's a lot of room for error with the quadratic formula. So your quadratic formula looks like this. The only thing I could add to it is equals x. Okay, this is one way that we can find our solutions. Okay, so the first step in solving a quadratic is to be sure that the equation is in standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c, and it's equal to 0. Very important. Then we can identify our a, b, and c. We can plug a, b, and c, our numbers for a, b, and c, into the formula, and then we just simplify mathematically. Definitely going to need a calculator here, okay? So first step here, checking this out, it's in standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c equals, and it's also equal to 0. So we're good to go to step 2. Identify a, b, and c. A is 1, b is -5, c is -14. Our negatives are very important here, okay? Now we're going to take this formula up here and plug in our a, b, and c values, okay? Okay, so what we are going to do here is I have the equation -b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. In order to plug in here, my b is already negative. So that's going to be a double negative on the 5. And I have plus or minus square root of -5 squared minus 4 times 1 times c, which is -14. All over 2 times a, which is 1. So I have the b and b here in these two spots. I just plugged in my -5 in both those spots. I have a c right here. I plugged in my -14 there. I have an a here and here, so I plugged in my 1 there and there. Now I got to simplify. So -5 is going to be a +5 plus or minus the square root of -5 squared is just 25. And then I'm going to do all this math out together. So I have -4 times 1 times -14. That gives me a +56. And 2 times 1 is 2. Now, it's very important to keep in mind here, guys, if you get a negative under this square root, remember what we talked about? There's no real solution, okay? We can't, if there's a negative number under that square root, there's no real solution. It would be imaginary, which we're not going to get into in Algebra 1. Now, my next step would be to simplify what's under the square root. 25 and 56 is 81. So we have 5 plus or minus the square root of 81 over 2. What is the square root of 81? 81 is a perfect square, which is nice. The square root of 81 is 9. So now over here, I have 5 plus or minus 9 over 2. Okay, so this is where I'm starting to break it down into my final situation here. The very last step is for me to split this into two things. 1 plus, 1 minus. So I have 5 plus 9, which is 14, over 2, which is 7. That's one solution. 5 minus 9, that'd be -4 over 2, which is -2. That means that the two roots of my equation are -7. So x equals -7, x equals +7, x equals -2. Those are my two answers. Okay, those are two spots where the graph will cross the x-axis. Sorry, I have crazy allergies today. Okay, I'm going to do one more problem here, and this one's a little trickier because it doesn't work out as nicely, and it's already not set up equal to 0, so we got to do a little work at first. So I have 2x squared plus 13 equals 12x minus 5. I got to take this 12x minus 5 and I got to somehow move it over here. So I'm going to subtract the 12x and add the 5 to this side to cancel those out and get this equal to 0. So I'm just doing the opposite operation. When I do that, I want to put this in standard form. So I want to start with my 2x squared. Then I want my negative 12x. And then this 13 and 5 can combine. 13 plus 5 gives me 18. Okay. Now let's name my a, b, and c now that I have this perfect equation. So a is 2, b is negative 12, c is 18. Now let's plug it into my formula. I'm not going to write it down this time because I can just look at it up here. So first is negative b. My b is already negative, so that's going to make it a positive 12 because it would be negative 12. Okay, now I have plus or minus the square root of b squared, so that's negative 12 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is 18. All over 2 times a, which is 2. Now let's take it one step at a time and simplify. So I'm going to do this little arrow to show you this is where I'm going next. Okay, so now 12 plus or minus the square root of negative 12 squared. If you do that in your calculator, that's 144. Doesn't matter that it's negative because when we square a negative, we still get a positive. Now I know this is going to be minus because there's no other negative values here. I'm going to do 4 times 2 times 18. That gives me 144. Uh-oh. 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, so I just got the square root of, so I'm moving down here now, square root of 0. 144 minus 144. So square root of 0, guys, is just 0. So I am left with 12 over 4. There's nothing to plus or minus. So that means my answer is 12 over 4, which is 3. That means I only have one solution to this problem. Okay, so sometimes we get 2 solutions, sometimes we get 1, sometimes we get none. Okay, let's do one more problem since that one came out as one solution. This one, I got to first move this 5 over. So I'm going to subtract it. Now it'll be equal to 0. So all I did was subtract this 5. Now I got it equal to 0. Name my a, b, and c. A is 2, b is 1, c is negative 5. Now I'm going to plug it into my equation. I know you can't see the top of my page, but it's written right here. So first negative b, so negative 1, plus or minus the square root of 1 squared minus 4 times 2 times c, which is negative 5, over 2 times 2. Start to simplify this. I get 1 minus, it's going to be plus, because I have negative 4. So negative, I'm going to do it on my calculator here. Negative 4 times 2 times negative 5, 40. Okay, 1 plus 40 over 4. 2 times 2 is 4. So now negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 41 over 4. There's a problem with this. The problem is that 41 is not a perfect square. I'm okay with you leaving this as your answer, especially if we were in class and you were doing this out on paper. However, we're not in class. Some types of technology are going to ask you for exact answers. So let's do it out as if it was exact. So we would do one of them plus, negative 1 minus, one of them minus. Okay, so this is where we would split it into 2. Just like we did up here, we split it into 2, 1 plus, 1 minus. We would just do it a little sooner because we can't take the square root of 41. Okay, so now I'm going to do the square root of 41. I get 6.4. So I'm going to replace these with 6.4. Okay, so now I'm just going to do negative 1 plus 6.4 which is 5.4, and then I'm going to divide that by 4. That gives me 1.35 as one of my x's. And you're going to need to do this in a calculator. And then here I'm going to do -1 minus 6.4. That gives me -7.4, and then I'll divide it by 4. And my other x would be -1.85. So those would be my two values of x if I had to get exact. Okay? All right, if you have any questions, please hop onto my video call from 11 to 12 today. I would be happy to help you. I know this is a lot of math, but it's really just what I like to call plug and chug. Take a number, plug it in. So it's actually quite easy as long as you don't make the mathematical errors. Make sure you use a calculator. Okay, make sure you go nice and slow. All right. Have a great day, guys.